Hi guys, it's Steffi from the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with another Books Beside My Bed video. This is the third last day of the Strike Back Videoathon, so I have 2 more videos coming up after this. All the links to the Strike Back Videoathon announcement videos will be linked down below so you can check them out if you haven't already. So without further ado, let's get into my wrap up for last week. So this is for the reading week of the 12th to the 17th of February. I read 4 books, 1,443 pages, and my yearly reading total is up to 30 books. The first book that I read this week is In at the Deep End by Penelope Janu. I won this in a Goodreads giveaway last year and it was released in February by Harlequin and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. This is one of those very easy to read romance books and there is nothing of real substance going on in it, and I loved it because it probably came at the time when I needed to read something that was light and fluffy and had no substance, which, you know, occasionally you need books like that. It is the story of Harriet Scott, whose parents were environmental activists and she has sort of tried to follow in his footsteps. One day she is on her family ship and it sinks in the Antarctic and she has to be rescued by Per Edmondson, who is a Norwegian naval officer, and the two of them begin this rather strange relationship where they can't stand each other but they really like each other. So it's sort of got that enemies to lovers trope in there a little bit. Mostly Per is mad because Harriet has screwed up his research in the Antarctic and now he can't get back down there unless he finds another ship, and so essentially she tries to come up with this scheme where her family's environmental group will fund his research so that he can go back and complete it and, you know, assuage her guilt. There is also an underlying subplot in here of why her accident happened and who is responsible for it, but I won't go into that because that sort of, you know, is part of the story you need to read. It was light, it was fun, it had 2 key words in it that, you know, drew me in, which are Antarctica and naval commanders. Unfortunately, we don't see a lot of Antarctica in it, but it's mentioned, so, you know, that's a buzzword for me. And I grew up watching TV shows with naval commanders and I don't know, it's a thing for me. So there you go. Now you know something new about me. The second book I read this week was Metro Winds by Isabel Carmody. This is a collection of her short stories. This was one of the books that I pulled out of my TBR jar. And guys, I didn't know I needed this book in my life. It was published in 2012 by Allen & Unwin and I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. All the short stories in this collection are sort of urban paranormal fantasy stories. They all deal with change and transformation and growing up, and they are just absolutely stunning. This reminded me very much of Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman, and it's sort of, it's a fantasy, so it's not really the urban paranormal stuff of Neil Gaiman. This is a fantasy because it deals with the Fae, but it's set in London, and London has a reflection in the Nether, which is sort of an in-between between the real world and the fairy world. And the Fae are trapped in their world. They can't interact in the mundane world, but they have their offspring who can live in both the Nether and in the real world. The reason I gave this 3, because I really probably should have given it more, because I enjoyed the story in the end, but I found it really difficult to get through the first 3/4 of it because there are so many characters and there's so much world building going on, and I don't think I was in the mood for it, and I didn't really connect with any of the characters. There are some really cool subplots where there are sort of these supernatural police whose souls are disconnected from their bodies in order to make them more effective. There is a subplot with one of the main characters who is the victim of abuse within her family and has tried to escape. Everything was really well done. Like it's not a bad book at all. It just probably wasn't for me at this point in time. So I did give it 3 out of 5 stars. I may continue with the series, I may not. There are things that I'm definitely more interested in continuing at this point in time, but it's well worth a read if you like those stories where the Fae interact with the real world. The last book that I read this week was Freaks by Amanda Hocking. This was published in 2016 by Pan. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. This book has a stunning cover. This is totally my book cover aesthetic, black and white and red and carnival and oh my goodness. And the story itself wasn't bad, but there's been a lot of talk on BookTube at the moment about changing reading tastes, and I definitely know that. And I'm one of the older booktubers that I know of or that I follow on BookTube. And so I enjoy YA, but I do need to break it up with adult and new adult stuff quite frequently. But some books do feel very, very YA. And this was one of them, but it wasn't a bad book. I really liked the supernatural carnival feel of it. So it is set in 1987, and Mara, the main character, belongs to a traveling carnival that is filled with people with these supernatural or mysterious powers. And that's what the sideshow is all about. They take a job in a small town, but when they arrive, all of those people with supernatural abilities feel that something is off, but they need the payday, so they're there and they've got a contract for 10 days within this town. And then slowly the people in the carnival are attacked by this strange creature or force. They don't really know what it is. Everyone becomes increasingly more paranoid and frustrated with the situation. The local sheriff is, you know, less than willing to help out and all that sort of stuff. There is a insta-love story that happens within pretty much the first chapter of the book, but you know, it's YA and it is what it is. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it. I liked the supernatural element of it, and it was just fun. So those are the books that I read this week. Not too shabby. Normally I would have a shout out at the end of this video. However, because in 2 days time I'm going to be doing another 5 shout outs, I thought I would hold off until then to shout out a few more channels. Plus tomorrow I'm also going to be talking about booktube channels that inspire me. So rather than overload you with lots of channels to follow, know that in the next 2 days there are going to be a couple of videos that I will share some more channels with you. In the comments, let me know what you have been reading this week. I hope you have had a fabulous reading week. I hope that no matter where you are in the world, you're having a wonderful day, and I will catch you guys in my next video. See you tomorrow, guys. Bye.